Hello, I'm Richard Gizbert, and you're at The Listening Post. This week, Don Imus and the language of talk radio in the U.S. France gets ready to choose a new president. The candidates go online in search of votes. And images from Google Earth designed to save lives in Darfur. Welcome back. This past week, 3 words spoken on the air silenced one of the most influential broadcast voices in America. Don Imus spent more than 30 years as a powerhouse of talk radio before a racial slur brought that to an end. In the U.S., the politics of race can be explosive. The Imus story and the way it was covered by the media there brought all that out into the open. Politics, race, and the huge money that one individual, however controversial, can generate for a media company, they're all part of the mix in our News Divide. It was 6:14 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, and Don Imus was doing what he calls a rap on basketball.
So I watched the basketball game last night between a little bit of Rutgers and Tennessee, the women's final.
What followed was a comment people in the news business call a career ender.
That's some rough girls from Rutgers, man. They got tattoos and
some hardcore hoes.
That's some nappy-headed hoes there, I'm going to tell you that now. Man, that's some... Ooh.
Nappy-headed hose is street slang for curly-haired prostitutes. Don Imus, well-known shock jock who often pushed the boundaries in his talk radio career, had done it again. Only this time, a media watch site, MediaMatters.org, heard the comment and posted it on the internet. Initially, the mainstream media didn't do much with the story, but it was getting traction in the blogosphere. And the I-Man, as he is called, felt compelled to apologize.
I want to take a moment to apologize for an insensitive and ill-conceived remark we made the other morning referring to the Rutgers women's basketball team. It was completely inappropriate, and we can understand why people were offended. Our characterization was thoughtless and stupid, and we're sorry.
Why was the mainstream media so slow to jump on the story? Possibly because Imus is popular with journalists. Many go on his show to sell their books or raise their profiles. The show aired for CBS in major radio markets on the East Coast and on TV on MSNBC, a 24-hour news network. Don Imus was influential, which, a prominent political activist told CBS News, was part of the problem.
It's because this is a guy who presidential candidates, U.S. senators, anchormen of the evening news that we all trust, go to his show. He is mainstream the most vile, racist, sexist language in America. If he can say this and let it go, anybody can say it.
By now, the mainstream media was on the story.
Today, shock jock Don Imus again apologized for his racially charged comments about the Rutgers women's basketball team. This time, he did it on the radio show of Al Sharpton, one of his loudest critics.
Imus's appearance was a little like putting out a fire with gasoline.
I didn't think it was racial. I wasn't even thinking racial. I was thinking like a West Side Story deal, like one team's tough and one team's not so tough.
Nappy is racial.
Yes, sir, I understand that.
Let me get this right. You call these people nappy-headed hoes, but you wasn't talking racial when you said nappy. Jigaboos and wannabes, but you didn't understand what you were saying. You just, what are you saying? You blanked out?
Oh, no, I didn't. No. I didn't.
It was painful to watch. Then Imus's bosses finally acted. First MSNBC and then CBS suspended him without pay. Why didn't they fire him? Well, there was the money. Imus's show generates about $33 million for the two networks per year.
I certainly understand the outrage at his remarks.
The story was now being reported overseas and was the talk of Washington. Suddenly, candidates for the White House who used to queue up outside Imus's studio were backing away from him. If Don Imus had his defenders, their voices were mostly muted or unheard. Conservatives, such as those at Fox News, did try to expand the issue to include the intolerance and misogyny in hip-hop and rap.
Double standard. Come on. The top of the Billboard Hot Rap Tracks charts. Just look at it this week. Every single one of the top 6 songs has the N-word, the H-word, the B-word. When was the last time that Al Sharpton said anything about it? Was it 2 or 3 or 4 years ago?
There's a difference between an artist and someone who has presidential candidates on their show. You know, and again, you guys continue to repeat the lie that the black community and people like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson are not outraging. They don't fight against it. They fight against this every single day. You know, Reverend Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, they don't own the top 10. You know who makes money off of those top 10 songs? White people that you coddle to in almost all your articles.
Oh, geez, here we go with the blame Whitey again. Blame Whitey. What about
who's making the money out? Who makes the most money, Michelle?
Yeah,
Michelle, who makes the most money?
Where are the words coming out?
The debate was all over the internet. An example was this posting from a rapper turned media analyst.
So anybody out there right now who's making their little videos and putting it on YouTube about Al Sharpton's a hypocrite, Al Sharpton's a hypocrite, he's only going after the white people. Well, when Al Sharpton is talking to black rappers about what black rappers say about black people, why the hell would you be listening? Al Sharpton is put on national news whenever he talks about white people, and that's the only time you will ever see Al Sharpton.
The day after Imus's suspension, the economic picture changed. American Express announced it was pulling its advertising from the show, and other big corporations quickly did the same. Don Imus was a dead man talking.
The breaking news here on MSNBC is that Don Imus has been taken off the air at MSNBC. The simulcast of the Imus in the Morning program will no longer air. He has also been suspended by CBS Radio.
To NBC's credit, when it finally fired Don Imus the next day, the news division's president went on his own network and faced some tough questioning from his own correspondent.
Some of our colleagues have said essentially that this kind of humor, this platform has been given over to Imus for too long now with this kind of discourse and humor.
The Imus program is what it is, and I am proud of some of the things that are on there and not so proud of others. I like that politicians come there to announce that they're running for the presidency, but I also believe that those were racist comments. And I believe that that there have been any number of other comments that have been enormously hurtful to far too many people.
What was the tipping point, though, Steve? Because people will look at what's happened in the past day. General Motors, GlaxoSmithKline, American Express, Ditech.com, Procter & Gamble Company, Staples, pulling their advertising from MSNBC. And the obvious question is going to come up that, you know, we're feeling the heat and we're reacting to dollars.
Look, I understand that people are going to view it that way, and I only say that is not why this decision was made.
By this time, the networks involved with Don Imus were under the microscope, and the Huffington Post, one of the biggest media watch sites in the U.S., was noticing changes on the CBS website. This is the site's diversity page. It features Don Imus, among others. On it, the network talks about its workforce and its goal of becoming racially diverse and representative of the public that it serves. The day Imus was fired, his picture was removed and replaced by one of another CBS radio personality, an African American. When NBC's Tim Russert finally covered the story on his show, he and New York Times columnist David Brooks, both frequent guests of Imus, were called out by a black journalist for not talking about the issue earlier.
There's been radio silence from a lot of people who've done this program, who could have spoken up and said, I find this offensive, or I didn't know. These people didn't speak up. Tim, we didn't hear that much from you. David, we didn't hear from you. My concern about Mr. Imus and a lot of people in a lot of the debate in the society is not that people are sorry that they say these things. They're sorry that someone catches them.
Don Imus is gone from network television and network radio. Controversial radio figures like Rush Limbaugh have been bounced from the networks for going too far, and then bounced right back to prominence by going independent and syndicating their broadcasts one market at a time. As the Fox News people put it, the I-Man may not be gone for good.
He's been a figure in Philadelphia, Boston, Washington, and New York City, for the most part. Now he's a national figure.
Yeah.
Within months, he'll be on satellite radio, tripling
and have
his
the
salary.
national audience.
Yeah.
Media watchdogs have been feasting on the Imus story and the way it's been covered. Rory O'Connor used to work at CBS. Now he video blogs at MediaChannel.org. And here's how he sees the story.
When the syndicated radio shock jock Don Imus spewed forth his racist and sexist hate speech last week, deriding a predominantly African-American women's collegiate basketball team as jigaboos and whores.
Oh, some rough girls from Rutgers, man. They got tattoos and
Some hardcore hoes.
That's a nappy-headed hose there, I'm going to tell you that now. Yeah.
It wasn't really shocking because it was nothing new for the bigoted broadcaster. Imus has been making millions for years from this sort of vitriol. What was new this time around was the response from the sponsors who advertised on his program, the media corporations that distributed it, and the many guest enablers from America's political and media elite who regularly appeared on the program. In the span of little more than a week, his major sponsors deserted him, and the two corporate media backers, CBS and NBC, initially suspended him and then summarily fired him. Why? Why this time and not the others? Because this time around, they were all left with little choice. Facing the perfect media storm, outrage in the blogosphere amplified throughout the internet, combined with a rabid 24/7 cable news environment, program executives facing a long Easter holiday weekend with no other compelling news narrative, and ultimately coupled with the mediagenic innocence of his victims, all combined and conspired to make the end of the Imus show inevitable. So, the struggle continues. But maybe the downfall of the I-Man might mark the beginning of a reversal and a return to civility and sanity on America's mainstream airwaves.
In last week's News Bites, we told you about Thailand blocking access to YouTube after a few postings appeared on the site that were uncomplimentary to the king. Insulting the monarch is a crime in Thailand, so rather than getting YouTube to take down the offending videos, the military-installed government in Bangkok just took down the entire site. Here at the Listening Post, we like to take viewers back to the good old days when state-run television was all anyone really needed. This is how Thailand would like the world to see its king, a special film to celebrate his 60 years on the throne.
The King of Thailand, His Majesty Phumaphan Adulyadet, is the world's longest-serving monarch. King Rama IX is not only revered by the Thai people, but has gained global recognition for his country. He has presided over a period of enormous change and progress. Over the last 60 years under His Majesty's guidance, Thailand's internationally acknowledged success has been accomplished while preserving her natural beauty, ancient traditions, renowned hospitality, and unique culture. Today, we are celebrating the 60th year of his reign over the world-famous Land of Smiles.
There, that's better. Coming up in part 2, the French election. The road to the Élysée Palace winds through the World Wide Web.